New York City. New State Studios, joined as usual with John. How you doing, man?
Doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah, just peachy. Love the weather.
You look better than I look, for sure.
Yeah,
like,
well, I didn't bike here.
I'm moist. And not in the managed way. I'm in the unmanaged moisture mode. Yeah. Joined in studio, Nastasia the Hammer Lopez. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. It's good to have you back. It's been...
I don't like it here.
I don't think she... Joe Hazen rocking the panels.
Hi.
I don't think she means your studio.
No, not
Joe.
your studio, Joe.
She means our fine city. Don't you need to recharge on hate? Let the hate flow.
No. I think the traffic is worse here than L.A.
Well, it's just different, right? Like in L.A., you're going for a long way. We got Jackie Molecules. How you doing? You're going a long way. Here, it might take an hour, but you're only going like 5 miles.
I know. That's crazy. Yeah.
Use your hate. Strike me down. Nastasia's going on the dark side here back in New York. And I think up in the upper left, we got Quinn. How you doing?
Yeah. I'm good.
Good. We were supposed to have on the show today thermometer entrepreneur extraordinaire, author of Modernist Cuisine, the original, and former research chef and maybe exec chef, I can't remember what his title was, at The Fat Duck, and also a glider pilot, Chris Young, but he cannot be on the show today because he had to take care of somebody. Anyway, so if you are listening in on the Patreon, call in your questions to 917-410-1507. That's 917-410-1507. I think we're going to reschedule Chris, so we might save some of those questions, meaning it's a good day to call in because even though I could probably prattle on for the full hour on any sort of tangent, right? You know, I hadn't prepared to do so. I hadn't psyched myself up, listened to some, although, anyway, well, we'll get to it later. If we need to go on tangents, I'll just say this. For well over 2 decades, like 25 years, I thought that Lenny Kravitz hated Warren Beatty because I had illegally, so I owned whatever album Lenny Kravitz put out that had Always on the Run on it. You know, he's in black and white on the cover. I forget the name of the album. Like his first huge album, right? I don't know if it was his first album. Anyway, so it was easier on Napster at the time to download the illegal live version, which I don't think had been released yet, of him playing Always on the Run with Guns N' Roses. And I already owned the CD, but it was a pain to rip CDs back then. Anywho, so I downloaded it, and then after that song, someone goes into a minute and a half diatribe about how much they hate Warren Beatty. And I always thought it was Lenny Kravitz. Turns out it wasn't. Turns out Nastasia's like, that's not Lenny Kravitz's voice. I'm like, what? She's like, that's not Lenny Kravitz's voice. Well, I've never heard him talk. I have no idea. Axl Rose.
Ah.
Axl Rose.
Okay.
Oh, well, he hates everybody.
Yeah, but apparently this song, is some double talking jive, blah, 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 whatever it was, he would regularly just launch into minutes long diatribes dedicating it to people he was angry at the time, including his guitarist, ex-guitarist. Not Slash, the other one whose name always escapes me. Anyway, basket cases. Anyway, so I feel bad now thinking that Lenny Kravitz was this freaking psycho for all these years. Turns out wrong. See, you can make an assumption based on one piece of data about another human being.
Yep.
Hold it in your heart for decades and just be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So what do you guys got this week? Oh, but you want to tell them how to join the Patreon, John? Should they choose to do so while my glasses unfog from all the...
Yeah, you are quite the sight today.
Foggy, moist man.
Check out patreon.com/cooking issues if you're thinking about becoming a member. We got different membership levels. You get great perks at every level. You get your questions being prioritized, being answered when, it fits in with the episode. Yeah, I mean, well, let's be real. If we have a guest, it's hard to get them in.
Yeah, although, to that note, though, come on, people. We're trying to get good guests on. Give them some questions.
Yeah.
Give them some questions.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to be me, asking them, the random questions that you're using. What do you think about... It's like some random... What do you think about this kind of pork? Wait, you don't want to hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Although, I did have magic pork over the weekend.
Nice.
Oh, it's so good. Magic pork is so good. And I have to say, I've reused again and again and again my ersatz hood, my mini hood, and I love the mini hood. If anyone out there has a decent supply of cheap Nomex fabric, I want to make one that's like instant up and down. The one I'm using now is what's the brand name for it? You know the stuff they make mailboxes out of, the white plastic, corrugated plastic, Coroplast? Is that the brand name?
I think so.
Anyway, it's polypropylene, which is decent. Like, it can withstand boiling temperatures. But right now, I only feel comfortable putting it over my fryer and over my induction unit. Now, if I were to make one with like tubing that works almost like one of those centipede tables with Nomex fabric as the outside, well, hell, that could do like 700 degrees. And when it doesn't burn, it just kind of decomposes. So I could put that right over a real burner.
Boom.
Boom.
To keep this No Tangent Tuesday going. So yeah, patreon.com/cooking issues, different membership levels. You get access to our Discord and a whole bunch of other great things. So check it out.
John,
there we go.
Imagine a world where you could cook whatever you want on any stove at any time with no smoke in your house.
That would be pretty amazing.
The hood's all.
Oh, jeez.
But anyway, but like the point is like,
Wow, yeah.
dude, like it's a game changer because like there's always one person in the house, not always. There's often one person in the house who wants to make smoke when they're cooking. Because why? Because why?
That's just what needs doing.
Because the food will taste better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what needs doing for to have a good meal. Yeah, exactly.
Ding, right.
Yeah.
And then there's other people for whom that amount of smoke first of all, it's probably toxic. I've said this for years. It probably really is bad for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, no joke. But there's always somebody in the house for whom that smoke has now ruined the meal no matter how good it tastes. Because how good the food tastes, as Nastasia will say, you'd rather never talk about the food.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Food shows up, it's smoky in the house. I'm getting out of here. What the hell is this? You know what I mean? They're like, but. You're like, hell with you. You know what I mean? Stasia's like, I'm not going to say who it is. Because that would be, without saying who it is, what was your gripe about the very nice restaurant you went to, Nastasia?
Oh, they kept interrupting and telling us about the food.
Stasia's like, I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
Stasia's like, I don't care.
I don't care which restaurant. It was Attaboy.
Wow. Calling people out. We do not call out.
Back in New York, baby.
I mean, in general, we do not call out our fellow industry folk, you know? Because it's their business.
But we
Well,
ordered.
she's not really calling them out. They're doing like a good job, it sounds like. It's just something she doesn't like, you know?
But if you're in the middle of a story and then they don't care,
Oh, yeah.
they put the food down and they tell you what you ordered. But I know what I ordered because I chose it. You know?
Yeah, but that, I mean, that wouldn't work for me because I'm like, I don't know, what did no one order yet? You know what I mean? Like, but, I mean, okay, I'm not defending them. How long was the story? I'm just messing with you. Listen, I mean, there are people, though, who want to hear about every little Godsey. So it's hard to read sometimes. But, you know, you give a pretty good get the hell away from me face. So if they were reading.
Ooh, yeah, one of the best.
Yeah, right? So, like, you know, for those of you that don't know Nastasia, like, if you walk up to Nastasia and she stares straight at you with the dead inside look, just stop. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's over. You've lost, you know? And like I have which I didn't even know until I saw myself videotaped. I have a death dagger look.
Yeah, you do.
At that point, stop.
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting through to me anymore. Same with you. When you have the dead inside look, that's your look of as Milton wrote about the devil in Paradise Lost, obdurate pride and steadfast hate, which is like the only line from that entire book that stuck with me. I read that book too young. So all the parts with the devil, I'm like, right on, devil. Like to me, the devil is kind of the good guy in that story because I read that book too young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the devil's kind of like, you know, kind of kicking ass. He's like, he's chucked down. You feel like it's unfair. He's in this like, you know, hellscape, you know, literal hellscape. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So she did not enjoy. So if Nastasia the Hammer Lopez is ever in your restaurant, just let her eat.
Yeah.
She knows what she's ordered. Beep, 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 beep. You know what? It's not fair to say. It's nice to tell people what they are, especially, but like, what if you weren't you? What if you didn't know about, that's the other thing. You're already inculcated in all this garbage. So it's like, you feel like, you know, I know what I ordered, but like, there's a lot of people who are like, what's a blah? What's a blah? Because everyone writes random ingredients on, not random, but they write ingredients on their menu, and it's nice to have one or two obscure things. They're like, well, I haven't had that before in that way. You know what I mean? But then not everyone knows what it is. So they say, I don't know. Yeah, I can see both sides, but you clearly gave them death eyes, so they should.
No, I just stared at the dish.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I wish I was eating it and
Yeah, because you
finishing my
have to
story.
wait till they're done to even eat. Like,
No, I told you I almost got kicked out of a very fancy restaurant
why?
because they brought the thing and they started yapping, and I just ate it.
Yeah,
I didn't wait.
Yeah,
They're like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's food. I'm eating it. I will hear
Remember
after
when we
it's
went
done."
to that Michelin restaurant in our pajamas in
Yeah.
China.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, 3 stars. Not 1 Michelin star.
Jesus.
Not 2 Michelin stars. Count them. 3 Michelin stars. She had on a cat sweatshirt, pajama bottoms, and you ready for it? My least favorite clothing item on earth, the flip flop. Like, she's,
Oh man.
yeah. She like rolls out of the shower, puts on her hotel clothes, goes down to the lobby. And he's like, hey, how about, we're like, it's raining out. I don't feel too good. How about this 3-star Michelin restaurant? Okay. And
It was not expensive either.
it wasn't so bad. And also it was pandemic times. So like very few people were out. So they had reopened, but like they needed to fill the tables. I think, and they treated us pretty well. They must have thought these people must be really rich. If they're coming here looking like this much of a slob, they got to be like Microsoft money or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because only some weird like tech weasels would dress this effed up. You know what I mean? I had that happen one other time at Peck in Milan. I showed up like looking like the scruffiest. It was in my 20s. And I got super blown out there, like just super best service all time. I still remember it. I was like, they rolled me out of that place in a barrel. I was pickled. You know what I mean? And like Jen and I like not broke into, but somehow got on the roof of the cathedral in Milan, and we're running around in the cathedral taking pictures, wasted out of our minds right after lunch. You know what I mean? Like, love that restaurant. That was, I think, it was famous, but it wasn't famous for like what it's famous for now. But Peck, man, I still think about that. You ever have any meals like that? You just think about them. They were so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what makes
How many?
1.
1? Oh.
probably like 4 or 5.
What was yours, Stas?
I was traveling from Switzerland to the south of France to meet Cesare at
Casella, our friend.
at I don't remember the name. But it was a very fancy place. Who's the guy that fell in the tree and like
Ducasse.
Yeah, it was that one there. And
The guy that, he
that's his claim to fame.
he cooks good. He cooks good, and he was in a tree for like a week. Oh, yeah, Ducasse. Anyway, okay, so you were at a Ducasse joint in Switzerland?
In south of France. Yeah, and it was really special. It was super special. Cesare had to wait 2 hours for me because the train was late.
Was it at the Abbey?
No.
Wasn't the Abbey?
No.
And how did Cesare deal with waiting?
He was getting sauce. They just kept bringing me more and more champagne.
Oh, man.
It was fun.
Yeah, that sounds good. For me, Peck, my Noma meal was fantastic. A couple of meals at a place that's closed called Harold's that was run by, the chef was the wife, and the maitre d' was the husband, I think, bearded marriage, and they were in their 80s when they finally closed it down, and they did like straight up, not French, continental style, post-world, but he was doing like 30s, 40s style food. But they smoked their own trout that they raised there, and it was just the best service in the world. He would reach under your crotch, grab your coat and pull it down so that your shoulders would look good when you put your coat back on you. I was like, oh yeah.
You hate being touched.
He didn't touch you. That was the thing. He somehow reached through your crotch without touching you in a way that wasn't creepy. Anyway, fantastic food. Harold's, man. That was a good place. And Le Cirque, when they gave me baby lamb, a couple of things stick in your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tableside service at Danielle was pretty good.
Ooh, yes.
When you and I went to that place with the bird shot, that was memorable.
But not in the way that you enjoyed.
No.
We went to Hicks in London, which is, I'm sure it's still there, right? A well-known restaurant. And Hicks, the chef, is famous for his game menus. And so I'm like, you can't get this. They shoot these suckers in Scotland and then they bring them here and they're, grouse and whatnot, woodcock and big gus and, woodcock. And so I get it. And they're like, watch out. There's birdshot in it and they haven't been gutted and they're real bloodies. And then this stinky pile of rare bird shows up at our table. And like, I'm trying to talk to Nastasia, little bits of blood and BBs are like sticking to her forehead. While I'm talking, it was like a nightmare.
Oh my God.
The worst, right? And it had that blood smell. You know what I mean?
Oof,
Can
yeah.
you smell it? That like I'm sucking on a penny, like iron nail blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Period.
Wow. Taking it there. Taking it to the streets. All right. Wait, John, did you already go?
No. For me, honestly, I'll just say one. The biggest one for me was WD50 back in the day.
Oh my, I forgot. WD50. I once went to WD50 right after going to Essex House, which was Ducas's flagship here, and I was like, I prefer WD50.
Yeah,
because it was, I don't know,
Yeah.
Great meals. Yeah, some good meals.
Yeah.
Like older you get, the harder it is to have a fantastic meal.
It truly is, and it's so disappointing. I went to a 2 Michelin star restaurant last week. And I'm not going to name it, but I'm done with that. It's just not worth it anymore.
Give yourself a couple of years.
Maybe, yeah.
Then like styles will either come back or change, and you go and you'd be like, oh, I miss it. I
don't know. When you pay that $700 bill at the end, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
The trick is get rich.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah. Then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no.
Then a hot dog, 2-star Michelin, same.
Yeah, true.
Same.
True.
I had a really good meal at Le Pré Catalan, actually, 3-star.
Oh.
In the Bois de Boulogne. Did I tell a story on the air already?
I don't think so.
And so, when was it? It was pretty soon after I was married, so I was still in my 20s. And my mom and my stepfather were like, you gotta go to Le Pré Catalan, their cheese plate, which was amazing. Anyways, so like, the Bois de Boulogne is this park where the hookers are, the sex workers are, right? And we're going there at dusk, and we don't have any money. We're spending all our money on this 3-star, so we walk there. We're trying to walk there. We get off at, the metro, and we're trying to get there. And this is pre-cell phones, we get wickedly lost. So we start trying to ask, in my busted French, sex workers where Le Pré Catalan, the 3-star Michelin restaurant, is in this park. And they're like, want a date? I'm like, no, pod.
Weren't you with your wife?
Pod sex. Yeah, but they don't know. What do they care? They're working for a living. You know what I mean? It's Roscoe. He working. Anyway, so like, so we made it. So we were like 2 hours late, and they were so gracious to us, and they gave us the whole meal. But French service, I don't know, me gusta.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that reserved. They were really nice to us in a very reserved French way.
Yeah,
but the cheese plate, oh my God! And their what's it called? This is like 30 years ago. Still, 28 years ago. Their marrow in the cleaned out bones, and their like sea urchin soup in the thing, and their what's it called? Their pigeon. Oh my God! Oh God, so good. Anyway, what about you? What about you on the other side of the line? Any meals you guys specifically remember?
I feel like the first time I went to Gramercy back in the day, that was my first like amazing service moment where I was like, oh, this is special. And then when like the beginnings of Nakazawa, because I was at the other network and it was such a hard res to get. And
at the other network,
I was able to get one, and that was my first like really good, Michelin star omakase thing. And
how much did that set you back?
Blew my mind. Good question. Probably like with a drink pairing, 500 a person, maybe a little bit more.
Did it last longer than 22 minutes, which is how long Nastasia?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh
nice.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Like, I did do a 2 Michelin star, and I'm the worst. I forget the name of it. It was in Tokyo, like one of the Tokyo Michelin star omakase experiences, and it was like too stressful for me. I felt like I was messing up, or like I was going to do something wrong or make the wrong. It was just too.
How were you going to
much.
mess up? Were you missing your face?
No. Just, I mean, I don't know how to describe it because, like I'm like the only American person there. I was by myself.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel wanted. And for the money I was spending, I was like, damn, this is.
That's probably true.
Stressful.
You probably were not wanted. But I mean, that's just probably the actual fact.
But when you're spending $700 on a meal, it's kind of like you sort of want to feel wanted, Yeah.
I'll just say this, though. Here's a word of advice to to anyone who's young and is nervous going to like, places, like crap on them. This is your money, your time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't ever feel bad about what you like or don't like. And don't ever let someone give you the, business or make you feel lesser than. Like, it's their job to make you feel like
hospitality.
that you're royalty. That's their job.
Yep.
If they're not doing it, that's on them. And especially the more you pay, this is the problem with having this is why all those people are uptight, right? Is because there's zero room for error when the money gets that large because, zero room for error because stuff that you'll let fly at,
Temperance.
Self things are the best things. It's a true story. What about you, Quinn? You got anything? Any meals you remember specifically or dishes?
Oh, boy. I mean, I don't know the restaurant. I have very memorable meals. I have a whole treasure trove of untapped stories. Did I ever tell anybody here that when I was 11, my mom dragged us around Europe for 5 months?
I mean, I know the story. I don't know that I don't know the listeners know the story. I mean, it's not just us. Yeah.
One memorable meal. I don't even know the restaurant, but we were driving around Florence, sightseeing. We were at a gas station. We asked some guy for directions. He was like a roofer. And he's like, well, I'm not working today because it's raining. It wasn't really raining, but whatever. And we basically kidnapped him, and he became our unofficial tour guide for the entire day.
Oh, man, it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Northern Italians, good hospitality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you do?
We went to, like, David with him. Like, we went all over the place. And then he took us to this restaurant. And I distinctly remember this, like, just cherry tomato, garlic pasta that we had at this random restaurant that he knew. And I've never been able to replicate a pasta that good.
Well, of course you can't replicate it because part of it was what happened. That's the issue. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I have a similar Italian story. On my honeymoon, so this is 1995, I was 24. And, again, no money. So I went to Tivoli, which is outside of Rome, because one of my favorite Italian gardens, the Villa d'Este is there.
Beautiful, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. And for some reason, there was no one there that day. I don't know whether all the tourists died or what, but there was no one there. The one bad thing I remember that day is a person asked me, they're like, are you Canadian? I'm like, hey! Anyway, no, sorry, Quentin, don't worry about it.
Well, we definitely made that very clear when we were in Europe.
Yeah.
We had, like, Canadian flag hats.
Oof.
It was very critical, even back then.
So anyways, we're in Tivoli, and we had taken a bus from Rome, right? And so we don't know where we are. We're walking around, and we see this guy, and we try to ask him how to get to. I wanted to see the area. There's like a spring near the top of Tivoli that feeds the villa, and so I wanted to see all this stuff. And he's like, "What?" He's like, "You're here by yourself?" And he puts us in his car, drives us, gives us in Italian, unfortunately, but I understand, a driving tour of Tivoli, takes us to a restaurant, parks his car illegally in front of the restaurant, takes us into this restaurant, talks to the guy in Italian, basically saying, these are my new friends, treat them right, like, blah, blah, blah. And then we didn't have to talk to those guys. It was an amazing meal. All like some random Italian guy who wanted us to, see his town.
They're really the best. They're
Yeah.
really the best and the worst.
And because I didn't speak Italian, I couldn't talk to him about poop stas. Or digestion.
Yeah.
Which is your least favorite thing.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you hate more?
They love it, though.
They love it. What do you hate more, talking about the food or talking about the digestion?
Talking about the food.
Really?
Because at least the digestion is entertaining,
That was the old MoFad exhibit I wanted to do, Farm to Toilet. Mm-hmm. And no one was like, people were like, no one will come see Farm to Toilet. I'm like, why? If you want a circle, it's got to go all the way to the toilet and back onto the dirt again. You know what I mean?
Skip the middleman.
Yeah. Just bup. Anyway. All right. So now that we've reminisced, anyone got any food garbage from this past week?
Well, the kids came. Well, the children of one of our listeners came to both of our places the other night. Liza and her two brothers from the Public House up in Rochester.
Yeah,
It was nice.
Yeah, saw them at what's it called? Contra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Nice.
Yeah. Good people.
They're doing the rounds.
Yep.
They had a list.
They did.
They had a list.
Yeah, that their dad left for them. It was a solid list. Yeah.
I know, but that's kind of like, it's a lot to have a list that your dad's like, you must go to these places. Why don't you just come?
And I liked it on the yellow pad, like folded piece of paper and everything.
Yeah, I think I think that was this when I signed one of our menus and said, next time you come.
Yeah.
I think what was his name? It was Keith or Kevin. I was like, next time you come. Anyway. All right. What about anyone else? Stas, you were traveling, so do you have anything other than that one thing you already talked about where you called someone out on talking too much about their food?
I said the Cesare thing.
Oh, yeah. All right. What about molecules? Anything?
I just got back from Austin, Texas last night, and I actually, for the first time, finally saw the bats. You know about the bats?
Oh yeah, I've never seen them fly, but I've seen a couple ones roosting like just after the season
At the bell tower?
at the bridge at that whatever Canal Street that is. Why were you doing something at the Yeti store? I love that Yeti store.
No. I was on a boat for my friend Helen's birthday. She had like a boat. What do you call? I don't know. Like,
that river
on a boat.
That river is like
on the river, the Ladybird Lake.
It's like
Called,
6
actually.
inches deep. What were you on? Like an inflatable raft?
No, it's deeper than that.
Really? All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I tell you I saw the bats, I thought this was going to be like, oh, you'll see some bats come under a bridge. This was literally a million bats.
Yeah.
It was like a constant stream of bats that lasted 20 minutes minimum at like dusk sunset. It was very unsettling. And I did not realize there were 1.5 million bats in Austin.
Wow.
Which is more than there are people in Austin.
Yeah. How long did it take to go from cool to no thanks?
I'd say like after 3 minutes, it started becoming unsettling. And then after like 15 minutes, it was really unsettling.
Yeah. There's a...
Imagine seeing all the rats in New York City at the same time.
I feel like I've done that.
On a parade.
I feel like I've done that. Hey people, if you're visiting our city for the first time and you see a big trash bag and it's moving slightly, don't throw a rock at it. Don't kick it. Don't. Don't do it. Your story about seeing the bats and like kind of like the horror reminds me. You know the composer Steve Reich, minimalist composer. Yeah.
So it's gonna rain.
Yeah, it gonna rain. Anyway, so he has a piece which is like, because that's like, I understand it's important but unlistenable, but like he has a piece called like Two Pianos, and they're very similar, but it's like played real and they go in and out of sync. And when it first playing, you're like, oh, this is really cool, it's delightful. But then it's so long that at a certain point you're like, is this the rest of my life? Is my life always going to be like this? Am I always going to feel on edge? Am I ever going to feel calm again? You know what I mean? And then you have that thought, and then it goes for longer, and you're like, this is the whole rest of my life. And then finally it's over. It's like that.
That's what Nastasia thinks when the server's talking about the food.
Zing. I love it. Okay. All right. No one, Quinn, I know you have a food thing you're going to want. Did you ever measure the freaking butter or whatever we're calling it?
I gotta do it. Do another test.
Do you have any preliminary measurements?
Again, I have the measurements for the pseudo buttermilk.
Okay, and how much fat was in those?
Well, again, we can't calculate the fat. We can only calculate the water. And
Well,
then whatever's left.
You calculate the water.
Protein, sugar,
You assume
and
what the
some
non-fat
fat.
milk solids were. Remember, we went through this, and then the rest is fat.
Yeah, again, I have to run those numbers still.
Okay. So maybe
Well, again, we
maybe
don't know
next
how much
week we'll have some
protein-
numbers.
We don't know how much protein is in
Okay, listen.
the butter.
The assumption that we're going to make is that the liquid phase is the liquid phase, and there are only two phases: liquid phase with milk solids in it, And that milk solid ratio stays the same in all of the liquid water-based phases and an oil-based phase. And only those two phases exist. And when you evaporate the liquid, you have left fat and the solids that were in the liquid phase, and that solids always stay in the same proportions. That's the only assumptions that we can make because we don't have the equipment to do any other assumptions. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next week, people, maybe we'll have some data. Stas was about to lean into the microphone and say, don't count on it. And then she thought better of it. She leans in. I can see her mouth start opening. And then she just goes past the microphone like this. It says nothing.
I have the cream. I have the cream in my fridge.
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of cream, I did a cream experiment yesterday. Ready for it? So have I talked about cream syrup on this show?
No.
While ago during the pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
Wow,
so it's one of the ingredients that we use at Contra. So I used to make for years. I made milk syrup. So the funny thing about milk is that it's stable where at the pH where it is, right? When you add acid to it, it destabilizes and breaks. However, it also becomes stable-ish again if the pH goes much lower than its isoelectric point. So the isoelectric point of a protein is where the charge goes to the charge in solution goes to zero and then switches signs when your pH goes through the isoelectric point, right? So when you're taking milk to the isoelectric point, it curdles, bang. If you can get through the isoelectric point without forming big curds, it's stable again. So I figured out that is what is happening in milk syrup. You are adding so much sugar to it that you can't curdle all the way. Then you add the acid to it, take it all the way through its isoelectric point to acid. And now it's like a stable kind of semi-broken state that you can then shake in a drink and it doesn't curdle or cloud or anything. It doesn't like break.
Is it kind of like an emulsion in a way? Like I know it's not an emulsion. Maybe that's the wrong word to use because then associating things with that. But
well, it's like it's a suspension, right? So in other words, you're maintaining the colloidal suspension. I don't think it's technically a colloid anymore because I think over a long period of time it will settle out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But it's a fairly stable suspension.
Gotcha.
Is what it is. But the emulsion, you're not breaking the emulsion though. So that it's also, there's oil emulsified into it, which is what we're talking about with Quinn and the butter measurement. But so you can also do the same thing with cream. So it's a 50-50 milk syrup. Like make simple syrup with milk, add acid to it. It'll break, pseudo break. It'll thicken like yogurt, and then it's good to go. You can do the same thing with cream. You just got to be careful not to whip it too much as you're putting the stuff in. Now, it's a great ingredient. We use it right now primarily in low alks, and non-alks. But what's nice about it is that the cream really mellows out wooded spirits, so you can do some like fun stuff with it. The problem with it is it's pretty sweet, right? So yesterday, for the first time, I made polydextrose, which is the non-sweet sugar substitute. I made polydextrose cream syrup so that now I can add that cream to a shaken cocktail without adding sugar. So I can add the bases, I can add like whatever sweetener and acid I want and add the cream separately in a non-breaking form. Does that make sense? And I'm calling it Creamy D.
Ew, that's so gross. Nasty.
But if you guys have polydextrose...
You got my names for the butter loader bed.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to sell somebody this product, so it doesn't matter whether anyone does it or not. Like, we're trying to sell people Spinzall, so we can't choose a name that's ridiculous for that. You know what I mean? Speaking of, milk wash was a terrible idea. I should never have used the term milk wash, right? I should never have coined the term milk wash. And so when I was, Jen, my wife
Did you claim that? You created that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. I mean, you can search in vain for someone else who talked about it before
do
me.
People know about your...
Which one? The one I'm redoing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone
really?
knows about it. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think they do, though.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I mean, like, who knows whether it's ever going to get done?
People have asked about it.
Anyway, point being that Jen is reading my, the update to the washing chapter. And at the beginning of it, I'm like, I really feel stupid. Like next to Justino, which is the second dumbest term I ever came up with, like coming up with milk washing as a term, I came up with it because I was like, oh, it's like fat washing, but in reverse, but it's confusing, right? And then it leads people to say things like they're instead of saying milk wash, they're like, oh, I'm milk clarifying. I'm like, No, I mean, milk is not a neutral clarification aid because it's such a huge flavor stripper. So, like, to think that, like, milk is a clarification aid that you can use just like any other clarification aid is not the case. You know what I mean? Because you're just ripping so much flavor out. So Jen's like, well, this is your opportunity. You know, you can now change it and say you're going to call it somebody else, call it something else. But then I was like, you can't call it, like, flavor stripping, because then who is going to read a menu and say they're going to have milk stripped vodka? You're going to be like, milk stripped? It doesn't sound good. Milk wash sounds at least okay. You know what I mean? So I don't know. How did we get on this?
I don't know.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Well, you brought up cream syrup.
Oh, cream syrup. So yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Creamy D. I can call it whatever I want because I don't care. I'm not trying to sell people creamy D. You know what I mean?
Gross.
Creamy D. It is hard gross though.
Hard.
Yeah. What do you got, John?
I got a question for you in the Discord. Where did that go?
Shoot.
What freezer do you use at Contra for the carbonated cocktails? Randall, specifics, please.
No. So we had a Randall by Unified Brands at Booker and Dax. They have a Randall at Contra in the kitchen that they use for the culinary side. But ever since existing conditions, what we do for carbos is we take an ice well and then put the drain tubes for sinks.
Yeah.
That you stick it so that the sink doesn't drain. So we have one of those in it so that we can fill the sink. And then we fill the sink with a mixture of the world's cheapest handles of vodka. And then we take it to about 20% alcohol. And then we have an aquarium pump that circulates it. And then we pump chilled glycol through the cold plate so that we're using, instead of using the ice well to chill the liquid in the cold plate, we're using the liquid in the cold plate to chill the liquid in the ice well. So we're reverse ice welling. And it just sits there and we have all the bottles. I built a little, you know, like when you get a case of wine, it has the little cardboard dividers.
Yeah.
So I built one of those things of but they're steel and they're perforated so that the bottles can stand up. One of the problems with putting carbonating bottles into an ice bath is they bob around and they fall over and it's a nightmare because especially like the emptier they get, the more floaty they are, right? And so my solution has always been if you can keep them in these kind of sleeves, they just float to the level of the liquid. So that's what we do. Anyway. But Mike Capaferri uses, he uses cheap, refrigerators that you get at I don't know where you get it, where you live, wherever. I don't know where you guys live, like PC Richards. I don't know where you go. You know what I mean? Lowe's, one of these things. And then he uses, and I've used them a lot as well, Inkbird, because I think they're the cheapest. And what they are is they're just little temperature controllers. And you plug the temperature controller into the wall. And then the temperature controller has a temperature thing that you stick in the fridge. And it has another plug. And you plug the refrigerator into it. And then you just turn it on as cold as possible. And then the machine, if you buy a freezer, not a refrigerator, don't do it with a fridge because they'll ice up over time. Trust me. And a freezer is designed to do this. And then that's it. Then you can set it to whatever temperature you want, and it can be very accurate. I will say this: remember, don't hook a fridge or a freezer up to a PID controller. Okay, I'm going to say this one more time because this is not going to make a lot of sense to people. Do not hook up a fridge or a freezer directly to a PID controller because for any of you who have ever used an immersion circulator before, when you look at it, right, you'll see the light that designates the heater is on, goes on, 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 on. And you know what the worst thing in the world for a compressor is? On. Yeah, kill it. You'll wipe out your compressor in like 45 minutes. It's going to be toast because it's huge inrush of current. It's just terrible for it. So instead of that, you want good old fashioned bang bang control, and you want to set, depending on what you're doing, about 2 degrees of hysteresis. You could try 1, but you also, some of them, I think the Inkbird you can set a minimum length of time between cycles. And I wouldn't want my fridge cycling on faster than about once every 2 minutes or so. So, you can set it like that, but please do not send a regular PID signal to a compressor, Hey, I remember once at the French Culinary Institute when they did one of the renovations and they tried to cheap out. Remember, they would always cheap out. They would do all this nice stuff, and then they would cheap out at the last minute. So one of the things they cheaped out on was they had remote. Okay, so for any of you who've ever had like a restaurant, here's the thing: am I going to have remote compressors or not? John, you know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
So like, if you have a new construction, a lot of our home refrigerators, the compressor for the refrigerator is right by, Stas, you know what we're talking about.
Yes,
It's like, for your walk-ins and whatnot, where's the compressor going to live?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So like the most efficient thing is to have your compressors like outside and way away from everything so that you can reject the heat, right? So first of all, they stick all of our compressors, because they had no other place for them and they couldn't figure out how to vent it, into a tiny cube right down the hallway from where we are, right? So it's just loud and hot as hell, right? And then they couldn't run enough electricity to them from one panel, so they split the panels, and we once lost a whole panel in the building so that one leg of our compressors went out, and no one was trained to be like, oh my God, these things are only running on one leg of their 3-phase, and go turn them off, and it wrecked them all. It wrecked them all. So you just got to be careful with your compressors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, awesome times, good times, great oldies. All right. So I'm sorry. I still have not gotten my ambergris yet. Last time I tracked it, it had made it to Frankfurt. It had made it it was coming out of Mumbai. It made it to Frankfurt, but it hasn't made it into the United States of America yet. I don't know whether the new customs have been like, we need only United States-made fake ambergris. You know what I mean? But maybe that's what happened. I don't know. We'll see whether I can get it. Okay. Moron Labnet, which is interesting. I would guess that most Labnet is not a smart, it being not a human. I love that stuff, though. That's something good to make in the Spinzall, by the way.
Yeah. Love labna.
Yeah. Spinzall is made for that. You know what I'm saying? Delicious. Occasionally someone will ask about the food safety of, we're going to ask Chris about this. Should we wait for Chris, or do you want me to
wait for Chris?
I mean, yeah, but I would say maybe the Simon question, and also anything after Simon is more general, and especially Johnny and Kevin's question are from like last week.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to put this out there for people to think about. Moron is asking, or Labna, whichever one you want to go with, is asking, like, is there a verification that your shawarma / doner kebab, the big old hunk of meat on a vertical rotisserie, #vertical grilling, whether or not those things maintain a safe temperature on the inside of the meat over prolonged periods of time, and was wondering whether Chris, and maybe we can ask him because, we're going to come later, maybe he can just like sneak into a shawarma shop, just shove a combustion engineering thermometer into one of them and measure the temperature through the middle of the shawarma machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll do it.
Depending on the trumpo, would it be big enough?
I mean,
like some of those,
some
of those shawarmas have a really big diameter.
Well, I mean, he can hammer one into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy has thermometers. Mine got stolen, by the way. I don't even have one. I can't even test it. Mine got stolen. Took them to a demo and they got stolen. Sweet. So anyway, so like Quinn, email Chris and tell him when he reschedules, give him this question and see whether or not he knows anyone he can run a test on a shawarma and give us the data. I mean, he would love that crap anyway. This way we'll know the actual answer instead of just sitting around theorizing like knuckleheads. You know what I mean? Anyway. Simon writes in. Oh, but this says it's for Chris and Dave. You don't want to ask Chris?
We could ask him again.
Yeah.
We could ask him again.
All right. First of all, Simon.
Or go to the next question.
First of all, Simon, you're saying lots of chefs. Why don't you tell me which chefs are saying this so I can go to their house and have words with them? No, kidding. Lots of chefs say that there's nothing much left today from the molecular gastronomy, in scare quotes, era of cooking that was done at restaurants like El Bulli, the Fat Duck, and WD50. What would you say to those people? Well, I mean, in the bar world, that crap is going strong. And I'll say that there was only ever a few restaurants that kind of were leading the forefront of development, but all of the restaurants were using all of those techniques. So you might not see all of these techniques. It's not being done in the same way, but it's not like the advances that were made at that time have been thrown away. I mean, people still use circulators. People still use vacuum machines. People still use hydrocolloids. People, all the stuff is still getting used. It's just kind of, I don't think that in the restaurant world, in the bar world, yes. And I don't think in the restaurant world there is as ebullient a nature of kind of playful, weird food whimsy as there was, in 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But the techniques, I think, are still there because they're valid. I mean, always some techniques are going to stay and some techniques are going to go because some are good and some are not. What do you think, John?
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing really to add on that.
Yeah.
Well said.
Johnny Baseballs writes in, some of the best beef tartare I've ever had has been in Belgium. I saw John as tartare on the menu at Temperance. Would he be willing to share his recipe and tips for making sure the beef is safely prepared?
Well, beef being safely prepared, that's just getting it as fresh as you can, grinding it cold and keeping it cold after we keep it buried in ice in portioned deli cup containers.
Gloves in hand.
Yeah. I mean, just being as clean as you can throughout the whole process. As for the dressing, so it's ground meat, not cubed. The original 1924 recipe calls for piccalilli mixed with the aioli. So piccalilli is a 18th or 19th century British pickled condiment, really heavy on the turmeric, so it's really yellow. It's got gherkins, cauliflower, pearl onions in it.
Pearl onion.
Yeah. And I mix that with mayo, Worcestershire, Tabasco, black pepper, and then at the end I add fresh shallots, chopped parsley, and mix that up with the meat. I can't think of the ratios to all that. Send us your email and I'll send you the recipe. But also more popularly now that's done with ketchup instead of piccalilli. So also when you go to Belgium now, everything is a little bit more of a red tint as opposed to the yellow one.
A little bit worse.
Different.
Hey, did I mention on air I discovered from Shirtleaf did a thing that Worcestershire sauce's base used to be soy?
Really?
Prior to World War II, Worcestershire was a soy sauce-based sauce with the anchovies and tamarind and all that stuff in it. Yeah. And then they moved to vegetable, whatever, TV, whatever. Yeah.
Interesting.
Hydrolyzed vegetable garbage now. So I kind of want to. I kind of want someone to make an OG soy-based Worcestershire sauce.
That'd be delicious.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yum. You should do that, Dave, with all your free time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Someone out there is going to do it. I'm saying, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. Do it. I don't know why the Lee and Parents doesn't come out with they could charge whatever they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just be like, here's the, 1910 or 18, whatever version.
Yeah.
Eat it, buy it.
Yeah.
It's 4 times as much. And you'd be like, fine.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Fine. Who cares?
Maybe we should pitch that to Bob Florence or something.
Would he make Worcestershire? He might. Send him an email. See whether he would do it.
Yeah. Bob's good people.
Bob's great people, but he's interested in what he's interested in. So if he's interested in it, he could do a really great, good job of it. If he's not interested in it, he'll be like, that's not what I'm interested in. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yeah, his stuff is good. I just went through another bottle of his ones with the mushrooms soaked in it. He has a couple different mushroom ones. Yeah. And the rye. Didn't he do the rye? Yeah, it was his rye. That was good. Yet. Oh, real good.
Yeah.
Real good. Again, it's it's expensive, but it's like a luxury that you can afford to have.
Yes.
Because,
For the people who don't know about this is Bob Florence out of Mystic? Right?
Well, kind of Stonington.
Kind of, sort of Stonington. Moromi soy sauce, artisanal soy sauce is being made out of Connecticut that are really delicious.
And he trained with some old school soy sauce producers in Japan, and he's still in contact with them. He's very respectful of the process. He's not he's not.
He trained over there for a long time, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he's an ex-plastics engineer, so he spent a lot of time in working on dashboards for like DuPont materials for dashboards that wouldn't like degrade in the sunlight, and I guess not also like mess you up when your head hits it. Yep. He like did like iPhone cases for, he did a lot of plastics engineering. And I believe his words, you can go back and listen to the recording because he said this on air. So hopefully I'm not misquoting him, but he's like, I was sick of filling the world with plastic, so I wanted to make soy sauce. I'm like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
All
another
right.
Discord question for you too.
By the way, how do you stop metmyoglobin from forming on the ground meat when you're storing it? You ever lose any? You ever get any brown forming on it?
No, not usually. I mean, I just clean the steak pretty well. I feel like, I don't know, when I get it out of the package, just like some brown on the outside.
Right.
Just trim all that off. I save that for my steak au poivre sauce to brown off later. But
because metmyoglobin actually isn't bad for you. It's just unappealing.
Yeah. I don't get issues with it. Yeah. It's nice.
And once you mix it, how long do you beforehand, how long does it sit in the mix?
It's a la minute.
Yeah? Okay. All right. So you grind for what you're going to use that day?
Like 2 days.
2 days?
Yeah. Keep it nice. All submerged overnight.
Keep it nice. Yeah. All right. Kev writes in, hey, Kev, back when I was a student at the FCI in 2009, and then an aside that, oh, crap, old. True. Yeah. World is like that. You were doing some experiments with isoeugenol and clove oil on fish pre-ikejime. Now, let me just say what that is, because it's been a while since we've talked about it. Ikejime, I believe, means fish killing. And it's a series of techniques that were originated in Japan for increasing the quality of fish flesh by destroying the brain of fish, and then sometimes doing what's called shinkanuki, destroying the spinal cord. So one of the things that we used to do all the time was destroy the spinal cord. At the FCI, we would run tests on different fish killing techniques to see whether they made a difference in the quality of the fish. Short answer, yes, it does. We then learned that there was a fish anesthesia. We talked about this. You can hear about this when Michael Fabro was on back when he was at Ora King Salmon. They used to use aqueous, which is a clove oil-based fish anesthetic, because if you remove stress from the fish by anesthetizing them before you kill them, the fish tastes better. And we ran those tests, and it was true. The lady who sold us the aqueous out of New Zealand also said it works on shellfish. And so we ran a bunch of tests on lobster and showed that aqueous, anesthetizing shellfish before you kill them, does in fact make the meat taste better, as opposed to just boiling them live, right? Boiling them unanesthetized, rather. But aqueous is difficult to get, so we used clove oil, which you can buy at a Whole Foods, as the substitute. That's the background for this, okay? Okay. I'm going to go into some trials involving a variation similar to the popular Korean dish, ganjang-gejang, which is raw marinated crab. The beginning of the process involves working with fresh live crab and then soaking them in shochu and then a salty flavoring medium. Almost all the recipes recommend freezing your crabs for a few hours to, quote unquote, put them to sleep. But I'm wondering if isoeugenol can let me avoid putting my fresh crabs into a freezer. How much further did you get on the isoeugenol technique? I know you did lobster, but that was so many years ago. I suspected you've since refined the technique. What ended up being your optimum dosage? Well, I haven't actually refined it more, but we did it a lot back in the day. So, in fact, we did it on crabs. We used to get live king crabs. So True World Foods used to bring us live king crabs direct off the airplane in styro. So they were fresh, like out of the water, like the day before. And we used to anesthetize those, and good. So here's what I would recommend you do. If you want to anesthetize your crabs, you can either make fake seawater, which is what we did at the French Culinary Institute, or since you are, I'm assuming you're Kev that I know, you're in Copenhagen, just get some seawater. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then I'll read you off the blog because it's hard to find now. Clove oil usually comes in 10 milliliter bottles. I did the calculation on the clove oil that I had at the time. It's not water soluble, so diluted in ethanol. So 10 mils of clove oil into 90 mils of grain neutral spirits to give you 100 milliliters of clove solution. The clove solution that I had, you want to dose at, you want to dose about, for fish, it says 0.03 milliliters per liter of isoeugenol. So for clove oil, because it was I'll give you it's going to be super boring. The blog is still there. 0.53 milliliters of the clove oil solution that I was telling you about per liter of water that you put it in. So you take the syringe, you suck up that solution, you spray it in, it pastisses out, it like disperses in and makes a white cloud. And what happens is at first like nothing happens, and then the crustaceans start moving around. And with lobsters, I can't remember with crabs because we didn't have a box big enough for them to move around. Lobsters will start walking backwards. So like they'll go from like moving a little bit to not moving to moving backwards. And then they kind of stop moving again, but they're not dead. That's when you get them. So after they start moving backwards and then they stop again, that's when you get them. And that's the dose. So yeah. Okay. Covered, smothered.
Yep.
Yeah. So wait for them to do the backward zombie walk. And as soon as they stop zombie, we tried a maximum dose of, it says 0.8 milliliters of that solution per liter of seawater. And the problem was we sometimes killed them with that. You know what I mean? So I would stay below 0.8 in the kind of 0.53 to 0.6 milliliter zone. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Good? Covered? Smothered?
Good. Yep.
My God, that was the best crab. Oh, my God. That crab was so good. Were you there for that crab,
Yeah.
Steph?
No, I don't remember the crab, but I do remember the fish that you killed, and we immediately ate it like raw or sushi style. It was so good.
Yeah. Man, back in the day, we had the nice thing about the French Culinary Institute, even though Nastasia and I worked literally in a garbage room, was literally like, what? Oh my God. So we used to show up in the morning. I don't even know why, right? Show up in the morning because we weren't allowed to cook until 3 when the class was over. And then we had like 2 hours we could cook before the next class came in. So we would go in and they would have just filled our quote unquote office with trash and chairs. So what would I do? I would just go in there, pick up the chairs, hurl them down the hallway.
So bad. So bad.
Well, it was so disrespectful to what we were trying to do.
And you were talking about last night, like chefs throwing things and how wrong that is.
I mean, I was not talking about that last night.
Yeah, we were.
You can't throw things at people.
No, but he didn't though.
Yeah, I didn't throw it. Who threw something at? What are we talking about? You said that the people that were around him said it was wrong. I never said it was wrong.
You said people shouldn't throw things.
They didn't throw things like at like other workers.
No, against a wall.
Oh, yeah, you shouldn't do that either. We didn't throw, I was just getting rid of the chairs.
No, you weren't, Dave. You were angry and you would hurl them down the hallway. It was crazy.
Anyway, but point being, like, we were always very pleasant to people. Yeah. You had to be, because that was the messed up thing about teaching at a culinary school is that even though the people who were there, you had to treat them like they were going to be restaurant employees someday, they're also the guest.
Some were not cut out for restaurants.
Yeah, but you see the issue?
Yeah.
So you have to treat them like they're part of a brigade in a real kitchen, and at the same time, they're the guest.
Yeah.
Remember when our interns would stand behind us and you'd say, "Stop effing creeping up behind me."
Yeah, so Stas and I are sitting there.
So
we're on the
mean.
computer. What do I mean? We're on the computer. You're just standing behind there like a creep. Don't creep on people. You know what I mean?
Dave and I shared one computer, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Something
oh my God.
stupid.
The other thing I loved. I'll get to the last question. Oh, we have time, yeah? We'll get to the last question in a sec. I'll do the question. So, like, I had a keyboard, and one of the shift keys was broken. And I was younger at the time. And they come, they're like, there's another, have you tried, like, pushing on the shift key? So I literally, like, got on, like, put my feet on, like, a stool behind and did push-ups on the shift key trying to get the thing. Remember that, Stas?
Yes.
Like, give me another keyboard, you cheap bastards. You know what I mean? Alex M., bread question. Sorry, Nastasia. I recently cooked a loaf of bread with activated charcoal for color, a recipe from Modernist Bread. It worked fine, except I noticed the crust was noticeably less crusty than normal. It had come out thin and chewy, equivalent to a bread that is barely cooked and blonde on the outside. All other circumstances are identical to a recipe I've cooked hundreds of times, and most of them come out extremely bien cuit, crusty. I've had the same experience with bread that includes matcha, which comes out a dark green, and I wondered if anyone could explain or speculate why a bread with an extremely dark crumb cooks less than a bread with a normal light crumb. I'm cooking in Dutch ovens in a home oven. You know what, Alex? I don't know. It's an interesting question because I would think the opposite, right? Because although, to be honest, bread, even though it's white when most bread is white when it starts cooking, or blondish, it's still, in terms of infrared radiation, pretty black. You know what I mean? It absorbs a good bit of the infrared radiation. I don't think it's that reflective. But, Quinn, you have Migoya, who was the one of the authors on Modernist Bread, because he was on the show like at least once, maybe twice. Why don't you email him the question and see whether we can get a response for Alex for next week, direct from the horse's mouth, since he did use their recipe. All righty, thanks. Another week, Cooking Issues.